And in situations where he wants to draw, I'm recalling the final game of the 2016 World Championship against Karyakin. He forced a draw very quickly in the Berlin. He always seems to go back to this opening 1e4 because there are forcing variations, there are forcing ways that you can kind of guarantee you get a stable position. And also flash back to one of his World Championship matches against Anand, where it was the Sicilian and he found a way to shut down Anand's activity. So I think that's the name of the game for the experienced Magnus Carlsen, to shut down Mamedyarov's fun. And it is the Sicilian, good choice in a must-win situation for black. And possibly, if Magnus pushes his central pawn forward, the open Sicilian will see what we call the Taimanov or the Khan, different variations with a lot of tension. So Magnus pausing now, he doesn't necessarily want to imbalance things by pushing forward in the center yet.
Yeah, I have to say, though, I've noticed Magnus is the expert at managing to get very simple, very comfortable positions with white. I mean, I remember many times where his opponents have been in must-win situations, and he just plays like this. He plays the open Sicilian, he gets a comfortable position, and everyone is just struggling against him. And he decides to pick up his c-pawn, move it 2 squares forward. Look at him, he's getting ready to close the position down. Magnus is just a genius, what can I say? This is why he's the world champion.
And wow, Mamedyarov, I was about to praise Magnus for being universal, but Mamedyarov pushing Gary the g-pawn forward 2 squares. You never see this in a serious game from top players. He's just forgetting piece development. He's throwing his pawns forward. He's trying to kick away white's knight with this pawn. It's obviously not a good move because you have to develop your pieces, but he's already trying to shock Magnus, playing on that psychological factor. This game is not going to be calm, no matter what Magnus tries to do. Even if Magnus tries to shut it down, okay, stopping the advance of black's pawn now. Mamedyarov, he's just determined. He's shown us with that move. He just wants to go down in style. And, okay, now we will see an open Sicilian, but what is black's pawn doing on g5? It's so weak, you could even take it now. Jovanka,
it's chess humor.
Yeah, it's just a desperation from Shaq, you know. He knows he's in a must-win situation. Let's just play the kind of craziest moves ever. And I agree with David. I mean, it's not good. Yeah. Do not do this at home. I mean, as David's mentioned, you know, the g5 pawn is weak, and Magnus is just saying, hey, I'm going to play it like a normal game, and I'm constantly going to ask you, why did you put your pawn on that square?
Yeah, and let's just say Mamedyarov has never prepared this before, because if you study this position with a computer, you see it's pretty much lost already for black, as we see on the evaluation bar.
After 6 moves.
6 moves. So he's freestyling. As you mentioned, that word desperation, Jovanka. Maybe it's not showing enough self-belief from Shaq that he has to freestyle like this. But we also have to commend him because he's entertaining us, showing us something we've never seen before. And it does remind me of a position or of a variation that I've seen many times from someone who passed away recently, Mike Basman, a very influential international master from the UK. And he used to like to start games with the creepy crawly opening, as we call it. 1a6, 1h6, just slowly edging forward on the sides of the board, creating weaknesses. And it just looks so ugly. It's so bad. But there are reasons you play it, and that's mostly psychological. The opponent wants to punish you, and therefore they get too carried away, and they lose their objectivity. But Magnus, it's going to be hard to unsettle him. Yeah. And this is the downside of pushing your g-pawn too far forward. White is going to push and undermine your pawn structure. White's rook on the h-file about to get open.
Yeah, and this is a direct consequence of Shaq's last move, which was probably an inaccuracy, because it allows white just to blast open the right side of the board. I mean, how is black going to maintain his pawns on there? He can't. He either has to trade or he has to trade.
Yeah.
There's nothing for it. Or he can move his knight, but that's not great either.
Yeah, he does take this pawn, but even if Magnus doesn't go and capture this pawn with his rook right now, which, okay, he has just done, but even if he hadn't, black's pawn structure is ruined, it's wrecked. Can you imagine anywhere for the black king to be safe? I think you have to stay in the center because the black king is definitely not going to the right anymore. It's too open over there. White's rook is ready for an attack. You definitely can't go to the left side of the board. You've got too many pieces in the way. You can't castle on that side either. So black's king is an eternal, I mean, it's an eternal target for white.
This reminded me of that song, Stuck in the Middle with You. Like the Jokers to the right of me.
Is that Sugar Babes?
No.
Stuck in the... No.
Yeah, no, the one that goes Jokers to the right of me, something clowns to the left. I'm stuck in the middle with you. Well, it kind of, that king is just there, you know, what are Black's pieces doing?
Yeah, and meanwhile, I'm pretty sure Magnus is going to be happy to castle the queen side to the left. Castle long, as we say. The white queen at some point will step into the battle. And, yeah, I mean...
She's going to go all the way to h5. Yeah, and, oh, actually, she doesn't even bother.
Simple.
Just keep it simple. And then white's king is getting ready to castle. The pawn is under fire.
Yeah,
think Mamedyarov will last longer than 20 moves?
I think it's a miracle if Mamedyarov lasts to move 20 in this game, I've got to say. Let's just show why Black's position is so hopeless right now. It's just riddled with weaknesses. And firstly, this queen advance has lined up a direct threat against this h6 pawn. It's now attacked 3 times, and it's just going to fall sooner rather than later. And the other reason, as you say, Jovanka, I mean, for example, if you develop a piece, I don't think white's going to get greedy anytime soon. White can just castle. And all of white's pieces are participating. These knights, this bishop, all fantastically placed. White's king is going to be super safe in the corner. And, yeah, clear targets, especially with this bishop. The white rook can even slide across and undermine this guy. Black can't even develop his queenside knight. If Black ever moves this piece out, then white can just take. White can just capture, and this pawn would drop. Maybe white wants more, but at the very minimum, you're going to go up a pawn. Yeah, this position is so ugly. And poor Mamedyarov impressing us so much with that g-pawn push, but this is the reason we don't freestyle in the opening. The consequence is you might get a position full of holes. And, OK, the knight moves to attack this rook, but the rook is just going to shift. You can step up 1 square. It can just step back the whole way if you want to play it super safe. Any rook move to safety, and Magnus has a decisive advantage. Too many asleep pieces, too many dormant black pieces over here. And yeah, no defense.
Definitely, Magnus needs to be kind here and actually give Mamedyarov about 5 free moves.
And then maybe
and then maybe he's OK, but even that, Anna, is a maybe.
Yeah, exactly. Big maybe. I think I would just play it safe here. It's slightly tempting to go and blockade this h-pawn. But yeah, if you just play it safe, retreat the rook. OK, he does blockade in the end, Magnus Carlsen. But yeah, next move, pretty much automatically, you castle queenside. OK, he doesn't. First, he moves his bishop, but he's getting ready to castle queenside Magnus. And when that does happen, that will signal the beginning of the end, potentially, for Mamedyarov. The knight firstly attacks the white rook. OK, he's found a good formation. We've got to give him credit. The rook is going to be forced to retreat. And, OK, there we go. It retreats. Bit of an odd square in the eye line of this bishop. But
that's unexpected. I mean, of course, white is still massively better. I was going to say go all the way to the starting square.
Yeah. I mean, this square just looks vulnerable. It's as if you're giving Mamedyarov hope somehow. But yeah, if you push this pawn forward to attack this rook and attack the knight at the same time, white can defend that. Those 2 threats in a very simple way. White's knight can jump to block. And this would be very strong. A capture does not help black at all, because actually white would have full control over the light squares. Instead, Mamedyarov jumps out with his queen to one side of the board, but Magnus, I mean, he wanted to castle anyway. White's king is going to be super safe on the b1 square. Is Mamedyarov, do you think, Jovanka, really going to try and copycat and castle?
Well, he would dream of, I mean, that's just like a pipe dream or just some ambition, because as Magnus has done, just retreat the knight and the pawn on d6 is hanging.
Yeah, I think we might see this game finish quite soon. Unfortunately for Mamedyarov, the queen is hanging. You have to move her no matter where you go. If Magnus wants to keep it super safe, he takes this pawn, gets the queens off the board, clear pawn advantage. Or you can even take this pawn. Remember, this one is still hanging. It's attacked 3 times. OK, Mamedyarov puts his queen in the middle of the board, but is this queen just going to get trapped at some point? I guess his idea, if the white pawn steps forward to attack the queen, which it has just done, is to give up his knight. But you're going to be a whole piece down, and we see the black queen trapped. It's captured. The white queen is captured, but at the end, Magnus just wins a knight for free.
And Shaq has decided he's had enough of that, and Magnus takes the point.
Wow, that was a quick game, a quick day. 3 games.